Hello and welcome to Campaign Chronicles, France 24's regular countdown to the presidential election, which is coming up very soon now. For that time, joined by our French politics editor, Mark Perelman. Good evening to you, Mark. And also by Nicholas Rushworth from our media desk. Good evening to you again, Nicholas. We'll be dropping into you later to get the latest reaction in the press and on the blogs. But first, Mark Perelman, just 5 days to go now until the first round of voting. What are the latest opinion polls telling us?
They're telling us the same old story. Basically, in round one, Nicolas Sarkozy, the incumbent, the conservative, is tied with his socialist rival François Hollande, 27% of voting intentions each. And they're way ahead of Marine Le Pen, the far-right leader, who is at 15.5%. On the left side, Jean-Luc Mélenchon, far-left leader, 14.5%. Finally, centrist leader François Bayrou at 10%. But the most interesting figure is the one from the second round, and it shows that François Hollande is still way ahead of Nicolas Sarkozy. We'll see the figures in a minute. 56%, 44%. Nicolas Sarkozy has not been able to close this gap for several weeks.
That would be a huge margin there.
That would be a huge margin. It's probably going to be much tighter, but it's not tight enough for Nicolas Sarkozy. He was hoping to be on top in the first round, but with some breathing room over François Hollande. This has not happened. So what is Nicolas Sarkozy's camp telling journalists and others right now? They're hoping that those who are undecided between now and Sunday will fall on his side for the majority. And they're also telling us a second thing is that round two has nothing to do with round one. It's a face-off. They're on the boxing ring, and Nicolas Sarkozy is confident he will, quote-unquote, trounce François Hollande once it will be man against man, program against program. But many people think it's wishful thinking because history tells us that when you have those kinds of polls so close to the election, it means that it's virtually a lock for François Hollande to be France's next president.
Well, a week is a long time in politics nonetheless. I mean, it seems that Sarkozy has an unexpected enemy, even within his own conservative political family.
Yes, former President Jacques Chirac, who was his political mentor. I mean, Jacques Chirac was the political father of Nicolas Sarkozy for many years, is said to be supporting François Hollande. This became a major story back in June when both Jacques Chirac and Hollande, who were both elected or former elected officials from the Corrèze region in central France, were visiting a museum, and when Jacques Chirac said those very things that were caught on a mic. Let's take a listen to Jacques Chirac back in June.
Vous allez vous faire entendre, c'est ça? Je peux dire que je voterai Hollande.
So Jacques Chirac, seemingly speaking off the cuff, and his entourage said, no, it was just humor from the Corrèze region. And some people are saying, well, maybe Jacques Chirac is getting old, he's losing his head. However, there have been consistent reports that Jacques Chirac still supports François Hollande. The man who helped Chirac write his memoir tells Le Parisien today that indeed Jacques Chirac prefers François Hollande, who has a more human side than Nicolas Sarkozy. And he also says that Nicolas Sarkozy has been so critical of Jacques Chirac. He described him as a lazy king. He betrayed him back in 1995 by supporting the fellow conservative Édouard Balladur, and so there's no love lost between.
No, it's an extremely difficult relationship.
Yes, and it's
these
also
days,
a very intricate family story because Jacques Chirac's wife Bernadette is on the trail with Nicolas Sarkozy at holding rallies, supporting him, and it is said that their daughter Claude Chirac is also in favor of François Hollande, and so Nicolas Sarkozy felt he had to react, and he did so this morning on France Inter radio.
I think the best way to show respect for Jacques Chirac, given his condition, is not to force him into making statements and make sure that he isn't being pushed one way or another by his entourage. That's the best way to show our love for the former president, our respect for the former president.
And tonight, the entourage of Jacques Chirac fired yet another statement saying that no one should put in Jacques Chirac's mouth words that he doesn't want to tell, and he says he won't speak during the campaign, which is not exactly very nice to Nicolas Sarkozy, who is a fellow Gaullist, but clearly there is still some anger, and it's not good for Nicolas Sarkozy, especially at a time when several of his former ministers are saying they are now favouring François Hollande.
Yeah, rather embarrassing there for the incumbent president. Meanwhile, François Hollande, the socialist candidate, was holding a rally in Lille, which is a socialist stronghold in northern France, whose mayor is none other than the Socialist Party leader, Martine Aubry. And if François Hollande is France's next president, Aubry stands a good chance of becoming his prime minister.
Despite the rain and the cold weather, these socialist supporters want this to be a day of celebration. Their candidate François Hollande is holding a major rally here in Lille, a left-wing stronghold, a city whose mayor is Martine Aubry. She was defeated in the socialist primaries, and most of them supported her. Now they're backing François Hollande, of course. The campaign's coming to an end, and we asked them if they thought that François Hollande was the best candidate after all for the socialists. Here's their answer.
I have to say I'm convinced by Hollande's ideas, very good ideas. And he's got a good team around him with Martine Aubry. I'm sure she'll help him, so I'm 100% confident.
Well, if Martine Aubry is chosen as Prime Minister, I'll be happy, as somebody from Lille. And I have to say I went to see Mélenchon, and now I've come here to see Hollande, but I'm a socialist supporter. And I've decided who I'll vote for. It's Hollande.
To counter the Jean-Luc Mélenchon threat on his left, François Hollande has promised to raise slightly the minimum salary if elected. And once again tonight, he asked his supporters not to be overconfident and to make sure they turn up on Sunday to vote for him in the first round of the election. But this rally in Lille will be especially remembered for the show of unity on stage with the candidate's former rival in the primaries, Martine Aubry, stressing with enthusiasm his qualities, among which determination and honesty, all of which make her proud to be socialist.
That was Clovis Casale reporting there. Well, meanwhile, the far-right leader, Marine Le Pen, was holding her last major rally in Paris tonight, lashing out at both Sarkozy and Hollande. Take a look.
We're here in Paris for Marine Le Pen's final rally before the first round of elections. Her campaign was supposed to be about a new face for the party, tackling new themes such as the economy. But as she's been losing ground in the polls, she has returned to some of the party's traditional values, immigration, for example, as well as tackling crime. But for many young first-time voters, it is her charisma that's key to their choice.
It's her way of talking. The way she speaks her mind, which there isn't enough of in politics. I think that what she says isn't racist. I'm 22 and I'm not racist. I have friends of all kinds and I agree with her. A lot of people before wouldn't have dared vote for the National Front, and now they vote for her, because she succeeded in making the party appear more respectable.
Marine Le Pen is stuck in a dilemma. She needs a good score in the first round to vindicate her control of the party and the direction of her campaign. But the polls do indicate that she could be pushed back into fourth place. That means the final week of campaigning is going to be vital for both the future of the party and her role in it.
OK, well, turning back to you now, Nicolas Rochefort, you've been looking at the media cover of all this. How Marine Le Pen and the other 9 candidates are doing is, of course, becoming a bit of an obsession at the moment. You've been looking on the web, and one way of evaluating them in particular.
Well, this is on slate.fr, and there's a tradition in the magazine, the sports magazine L'Equipe, which is where you give points out of 10 for players, you know, how they did, the goalie and so on. Here we've got slate.fr actually grading the 10 players there in the team in the presidential race this time. We can scroll down to Marine Le Pen. We've just been hearing about her. 4.5 points. Now they caught loads of puns in there about footballing and you know, the game. So what's the argument about Marine Le Pen? Well, she's very good in defence, very good in attack, but not scoring points in midfield. So she's not getting her strategies right.
Perhaps not going to make the national team just
Let's
yet.
have a look a bit more at another one here. We've got Nicolas Sarkozy there, and the message is that he's just been too aggressive in his tackling, and he joined this game late on. That's slammed him.
He did launch his presidential campaign later than his main rival, François Hollande, who'd had several weeks to tackle that.
Slate.fr is giving Sarko 5.5 points out of 10. We can go to Hollande quickly now, just to point out that there you can see François Hollande, 6.5 points there, and we can see that Hollande, of course, Slate is a left-leaning paper, so there's no surprise there.
Right, and both Hollande and Sarkozy are huge football fans.
Okay, well,
their sons were together at a football game last week, which is rather unusual in those tense political times.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, time to relax. That's good to see. I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there for tonight's Campaign Chronicles. Thanks very much indeed, Mark Perelman, our French politics editor, and to Nicolas Rochefort from the Media Desk. Thanks very much to both of you. Stay tuned to France 24.